Think Warren Buffett doesn't trade options? Think again. And what if I told you that this strategy that he doesn't talk about very much could drastically change the way that you invest? I'm Oliver El-Gorr, founder and CEO of Freeman Publications, multiple-time best-selling author, and for the past 6 years, I've been trading options the exact same way as Warren Buffett does. And if you want a guide to exactly how that is, you can click the link below. You see, Buffett's approach is pretty counterintuitive to the way that most people would think about options trading. But it's wildly effective. And in the next couple of minutes, I'll explain exactly what it is and how you can replicate it within your own account. So let's dive in. How Warren Buffett actually uses options. Now, first we should probably address the narrative that Buffett absolutely hates options and he never uses them, because he's pretty famous for being critical of options and other forms of derivatives. In fact, the most quoted line of his on the entire subject is that derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction. And he's always been very consistent on this. He's been very vocal and always very against the speculative aspect of options and options trading. He says it encourages short-term gambling as opposed to longer-term fundamentals-based investing. And the fact of the matter is, he's right. He's 100% correct. The way most people use options is really no more than short-term gambling. You know, I've grabbed this screenshot from Wall Street Bets, and there are hundreds and hundreds of examples of this, of people completely blowing up their accounts in just a matter of months through short-term gambling options strategies, and you know, buying call and put options and hoping for stocks to go up or down based on hunches or speculation or just, you know, tips you found on the internet. That's not an investing strategy. And chances are, unless you get very lucky, you are just going to blow up your account doing that. But here's the thing. Buffett himself does use options, and I'm a great believer in the saying, watch what people do, not what they say. And despite being vocally very critical of options, Warren Buffett has used options in the past on behalf of Berkshire Hathaway. Doesn't use them a lot, and he doesn't use them all the time, but he does use them in specific scenarios. The most famous of which was in the global financial crisis. So on the screen here, I've taken this excerpt from Berkshire Hathaway's letter to shareholders. This is the 2008 edition. And these, by the way, if you've never read them, incredible resources for any investor. They're free on Berkshire Hathaway's website, and you can read literally 50 years worth. So if you've got some free time, highly recommend checking them out. So in the 2008 letter, Buffett outlined Berkshire Hathaway's option strategy. So he was selling, that's the first key here, he was selling put options on major stock indexes. And as you can see here, the options that he sold, he was paid $4.9 billion in options premiums. Now, when you sell an option, you get paid right away. So that was money that Berkshire Hathaway could use to make more investments. And as he said here, we have received premiums of $4.9 billion, money that we have invested. We, meanwhile, have paid nothing, since all option expiration dates are far in the future. So if you're not really familiar with how options work, let me just break down how this would actually work if you were Warren Buffett. So when you sell an option, you get paid upfront because the option buyer is paying a premium for that option contract. All options contracts have what is known as the premium. The buyer pays it, the seller receives it. A simple way of looking at this is like selling insurance. when you pay for insurance, the insurance company gets paid that money up front. This is sometimes known as the float. And insurance is probably Buffett's favourite industry. And if you look at his entire career, it's the industry he's made the most money in. So it makes sense that he would adopt this options approach. So when you sell options, one of three scenarios takes place, because all options have what is known as an expiry date. So in Buffett's case, he sold options on the index, the stock index. So in Buffett's case, he sold options on the index. So the S&P 500, the Nikkei, the FTSE in the UK, and the Stocks 600 in Europe. So if the index goes up, then he just gets to keep the premium and nothing happens. If the index stays at the same level, he gets to keep the premium and nothing happens. If the index goes down below the agreed level, so this is usually lower than the current price, then he would buy shares of the index. But because you can't buy shares of an index, you would buy shares of an ETF that tracks said index at that agreed price, which once again is lower than the current price of the index or the stock. Now, this is a very intelligent way of actually using options. First of all, once again, you get paid upfront. So this isn't like buying a stock and hoping it goes up and then selling it for a profit. You get paid on day one when you sell an option. The second key part of selling options is because option prices decline over time, if you're the seller, time is always in your favor. And the third part is you don't actually have to be correct on the direction of the stock. You just have to not be majorly wrong. I mean, you can be correct, that's great, you usually make your profits faster. But as long as you're not majorly wrong, you will still make money on the trade. And here's another example of this that's more applicable. So I'm recording this pre-market on October 23rd, 2024. So Nvidia pre-market is trading at 143 a share. So let's say, for example, you like Nvidia stock and you'd like to potentially own 100 shares of it. So, the simple approach is you can just load up your brokerage account, you can buy shares of Nvidia at $143 a share. But you can actually use options to do this a little more intelligently and actually get paid to do so. So what I've done here is pulled up a screenshot from Tasty Trade, and I actually just had to edit out that market opening bell, if any Tasty Trade users know what I mean. And so what I've got here is I've got Nvidia's option chain. This on the screen here is known as an option chain. And we have various dates at which the option expires. I've chosen one that expires in 23 days' time. So that's November the 15th, 2024. So Nvidia, once again, pre-market trading at 143 a share. Let's say, for example, you think, you know what? I don't really want to pay more than 135. So what you can do is you can sell the 135 put option, which expires in 23 days. As you can see here, the sell or the bid price is $3.60. Because an options contract represents 100 shares of stock, that's $360. So if you sold that option, you would get paid $360 right into your brokerage account for doing that. Once again, that money is paid into your account right away. So what happens in 23 days' time? So you sold the option at 135 a share. That's known as the strike price. If Nvidia is above 135, then the option expires worthless. But you already got paid, so it doesn't matter. You can do this again and again and again and again and again. If Nvidia is below 135, then you will buy the shares at $135 a share. But because you already got paid $3.60 per share, your actual cost of the shares is even less. So it's 135 minus what you got paid. So it's 131.40 cents per share, plus any commissions that you're paying. Most of the time you're paying less than $1 of commissions per contract. So this is far lower than the 143 that you would have paid if you just bought the shares. And remember, that's only if Nvidia finishes below 135. If it's above 135, you just get to keep the cash, which is a really good deal if you like Nvidia stock and you want to own it long term. And fun fact, I've chosen Nvidia because number one, it's a very popular stock, and number two, one of our students has actually done this exact process so many times on Nvidia that his average price per share is, and when he told me this, my jaw hit the floor, negative $30 per share. So allow me to explain this. This really is the holy grail. For every $1 that he has paid for Nvidia shares, he has received $1.30 in option premiums. So first things first, this doesn't happen overnight. This is over the course of years. But he's received more in options premiums than he has actually paid for Nvidia shares. So if, for whatever reason, Nvidia goes to zero tomorrow, he's actually still profitable on the stock, which is, once again, a way of investing that is simply not possible without using something like options intelligently, the way Warren Buffett uses them. And so at this point you might be thinking, oh, this is free money, what's the catch? The catch is, this only works if you do it with stocks or ETFs that you actually want to own. If you do it on garbage companies, like for example, Rivian, you're going to be stuck with these stocks as the price keeps falling. And yes, you can sell covered call options on those stocks, and I'll just cover that in a separate video, but it's not going to make up for owning a big dead bang loser stock. So you've got to do it on stocks that you actually want to own. But if you get this right, not only do you get to buy your favorite stocks at a discount, it can be a very useful supplemental income stream. And even with a modest portfolio, you can make an extra $1,000 to $3,000 a month just by selling options on quality stocks. And this is not something that has to be a full-time gig. You can choose to spend, just a few hours per week doing it. So that's the topic of one of the books that I've written. The link is in the description. And if you do potentially want some help executing this strategy, the one that I've done for the last 6 years in my own account and helped hundreds of people put into their accounts, there's a link in the description as well if you want to have a chat about that. So that's how Warren Buffett uses options. That's how you can replicate his exact strategy. And I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.